Once upon a time, Alexander the Great came to India. There he met a saint. Seeing Alexander, the saint started laughing, and seeing this, Alexander got angry, and said that, "This way you are insulting me. Don't you know I'm Alexander the Great?" The saint again started laughing loudly, and he said to Alexander, "I do not see any greatness in you. I feel very sorry for you." Alexander asked, "Are you mad? I had conquered the whole world." Then the saint said, "It is not that big deal, yet you say, then let me ask you a question. Suppose you got stuck in a desert, and there is no source of water. And then someone offers you water. But for that one glass of water, you have to give something to that person, so what can you offer?" Alexander said, "I will give half of my kingdom for a glass of water." Then the saint said, "If I denied?" Then Alexander said, "In such a bad condition I will give my entire kingdom." The saint then started laughing and said, "Oh Alexander, now the total value of your kingdom is equal to one glass of water, and still you are very proud of that." Hearing this, Alexander's pride was destroyed. Here are 6 ways how pride is destroying you. 1. Pride is a blinder that keeps people from realizing they are prideful. A few years ago, I had surgery to repair my broken finger. I was knocked out by a wonderful anesthetic, but when I started to wake up, according to my wife, I kept trying to say the same funny thing over and over. I simply could not remember that I had said it just moments before. The very thing that caused me to act foolishly also blinded me to my foolishness. As the same way with pride, pride brings destruction, because it blinds us to our pride. It's almost impossible to know when we're prideful. Usually it takes an outsider to point out our pride, but often we are so prideful, we reject their assistance. 2. Prideful people refuse to listen and learn. There are many things we cannot do for ourselves. But pride brings destruction by deluding us into thinking that we don't need any help, we can do it ourselves. Pride brings destruction because it deludes us. 3. Pride can derail our lives before we even realize it. When we think of morals, certain things immediately come to mind. From stealing to murder or cheating. Many believe that these actions shouldn't be associated with those who claim to follow moral path in life. Yet, there are other things that tend to go unaddressed, but have serious consequences. The problem of pride is that it can derail our lives before we even realize it is. Pride can be the culprit behind many actions, from having a lack of compassion, to being abusive to others, to the destruction of ministries. Pride will always lead to destruction. 4. Pride is destructive. Pride is a destructive thing. It damages relationships. It can bring down organizations. It has a way of making even the most intelligent person act foolishly. Prideful and arrogant people are difficult to be around. They're difficult to work with, or be related to for that matter. And the thing is, we're always quick to recognize when someone else is being prideful. Yet we're often slow to recognize our own pride. But if I asked around, there are likely at least a few people who would be able to list all the ways you act pridefully on a regular basis. And if you're honest with yourself, they're probably right. 5. Pride will lead you to solitude. Pride is a sneaky little thing that creeps into our hearts, without us realizing. And it's something that all of us struggle with in one way or another. It's part of being human. We tend to think that we know best. Sometimes pride can cause you to be unapologetic. Although being unapologetic has become a popular catchphrase, it is not acceptable to live a life where you never take ownership of your actions. There are times when we are all wrong and hurt those we care about. Yet, getting a prideful person to apologize is practically impossible. Accepting that you are wrong requires humility and a willingness to change. However, rather than apologize for their actions, the prideful person may insist that their poor behavior is the other person's fault and never take responsibility for hurting the other person. 6. Pride destroys relationships. Those who suffer from pride believe life is all about them. Oftentimes, those who struggle with pride are unable to compromise, have compassion, or be agreeable in relationships. Instead, the relationship revolves around what they need, feel, or think is right. Whether you are in a friendship or marriage, the person who suffers with pride will often draw the focus back to themselves and play the victim when things are not going right. Rather than admitting when they are wrong, a self-centered person will only see the other person's flaws. If your relationships are struggling, ask if your pride could be hindering your connections. Pride prevents us from acknowledging our human vulnerabilities. This shame-driven pride makes us too uncomfortable to say, "I'm sorry, I was wrong, I made a mistake." When pride rules, we believe we're always right. Having this attitude in a relationship will prevent the parties from truly being vulnerable and growing in love and togetherness. If you can't say sorry, you may have a deep-seated pride problem.